You know you could be financing more pool construction projects if your customers had easier access to funds. The potential to increase your number of pool sales would go up dramatically if you could find a way to make that happen. Viking Capital has been helping pool builders connect their customers with the funds they need to build their dream backyard for over 20 years. A reliable and trusted financing partner in the pool industry, we're working with some of the leading builders in the nation to provide their customers with more approvals, lower interest rates, and larger loan amounts. Great communication is also what sets us apart. Our loan status software gives builders real-time reporting on their finance projects. Providing transparency and taking the mystery out of that process is a big part of why we're the partner of choice for pool builders from coast to coast. Want a better financing solution? Schedule a consultation with a Viking Capital representative today.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast. I'm Joe Trusty. Today we're going to be joined by Marcus Sheridan, partner at Impact and co-founder of River Pools. Many in the industry know him for introducing the ask and answer approach to content marketing, which helped his company survive the 2008 downturn and grow into a nationally recognized fiberglass pool brand. In fact, he wrote a fantastic book on his experiences on the subject called They Ask, You Answer, a revolutionary approach to inbound sales, content marketing, and today's digital customer. Marcus, thanks so much for joining us today on the show.
Joe, happy to be here. It's going to be a good day, good conversation, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I know I've seen you speak a number of times. I put you right up there with Gary Vee as far as getting the crowd pumped up to start their content marketing efforts. But for those unfamiliar with your story and how you got your start, and let's start with River Pools. For the benefit of our listeners, can you give us a little bit of your backstory behind the brand and what challenges you were facing around the 2008 era that led you to rethink your approach to marketing?
Yeah. We started the company, me and two business partners, in 2001, and things were going okay. We were fighting to grow the business, trying to figure out what we were, doing a little bit of everything, above grounds, in grounds, hot tubs, had a retail store. And then as we were pushing along, struggling, 2008 came and looked like we were going to lose the business. It looked like we needed to file bankruptcy. It was during this time, though, that I really started to learn more about the way the digital buyer was evolving. I knew I had been evolving, and so I started studying up a lot and learning from places like HubSpot and inbound marketing, content marketing, stuff like that. And as I was learning more, I said to myself, okay, so what you're telling me here is I just need to obsess over my customers' questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns, and I need to be willing to address those online. So I said to my two business partners, hey, we're going to become like the Wikipedia of fiberglass pools. If anybody has a question, good, bad, or ugly, we're going to address it. We're going to own it with text and with video. We're just going to go full send on this. And that's exactly what we did. I can remember just sitting down and brainstorming all the questions I'd ever received over the years about, in this case, fiberglass swimming pools. And I had probably a couple hundred questions. And one by one over the next year, almost every day, I was producing an article or a video and had the help of my two partners. And we would become the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. And it was really wild, man. And we were just a little company in Virginia, but we started getting so much traction that eventually I was like, we could scale this. And so we decided to start a manufacturing side of the business. And so we started manufacturing 2017. And then in 2020, I sold the manufacturing. We were also the first franchise of fiberglass pools in the US. And I sold that as well. And I still own, along with a couple business partners, River Pools of Virginia, which is essentially a franchisee of the bigger River Pools franchise. But it's been an amazing ride, man. It's been an amazing ride. And that's just the power of being willing to be disruptive, do things different, not follow the rules that you've been given. You know, frankly, we were the first to do a whole lot of stuff in the pool industry, and I could go down a list, but we were very, very disruptive.
No, I watched it happen. I was working for Premier Pools and Spas as their director of IT and marketing at the time. And we held River Pools up as the standard of the kind of content marketing that we were trying to do, because honestly, it was really impressive where you were able to take that website where it was like a run-of-the-mill blog. It was really coupled with great information, photos, videos, real world case studies, things of that nature to get the customer, the consumer really engaged in our product. And that was a really revolutionary take that I'd never seen before. But I've seen you speak a number of times, and I heard you say once before your breakthrough came when you wrote, "How much does a fiberglass pool cost?" And that kind of transparency was really uncommon in the industry back then. What convinced you to publish an article like that?
It's really funny. It didn't seem to me like it was special at the time. It just made sense. I'm like, this is literally the first question everybody wants to know. They call me up and they say, hey, I'm not going to hold you to it, but roughly what are we looking at? Every pool guy or gal has gotten that 1,000 times. You know what I mean? And so it's like, why was I ignoring it? And I have always believed in the golden rule. I'm like, I would want this as a buyer. So yeah, we talked about it. We were the first pool company in the dang world to address how much an in-ground pool costs on our website. And we didn't just do it in a fluffy way. I mean, we really explained it. We talked about what drives cost up and what drives cost down, why some companies are expensive, why some companies are cheap. We compared fiberglass versus vinyl versus concrete in terms of the pricing, short-term and long-term cost. We did all of it. And quickly, that one single article, man, if you searched any phrase on Google about how much does a fiberglass pool, an in-ground pool cost, it's generally one of the first ones you saw. I've been able to track the revenue that came from that one single article that took me 45 minutes to write at my kitchen table. And I know that it's generated more than $35 million in sales for the company, which is crazy if you think about it. But at the same time, that's the power of just being willing to lean into things that others are not.
Leaning into it is the biggest challenge, but today there's no shortage of content. You'll see tons of articles posted on everybody's website about everything from the pool construction process, what that's like, to working with a design consultant, to how do you finance a pool. But there's still hesitation, a lot of it in this industry, to actually talk ballpark pricing with customers or address common customer concerns. Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of folks are, first of all, they're living in the past. They're playing by the rules that they've been given by somebody else, which is incredibly sad. We also say lies to ourselves. The first lie that we tell ourselves as contractors is, I can't talk about pricing because every job is different and it depends. Actually, that's very easy to address. That's when you explain what drives cost up, what drives cost down, why some companies are expensive, why some companies are cheap. Just doing that induces a ton of trust. Second reason why they say they can't do it is they're like, I don't want my competitors to see it, which that one to me is so stupid. Because if I said to any salesperson in the industry, do you have a pretty decent sense as to what your competitors charge? They would say, yeah. So it's not like this is a secret. That makes no sense. And then the third reason that we will justify not addressing cost and price is because we say we tend to be more expensive, and if they see we're more expensive, we just might scare them away. What we know, though, scares people away during the buyer's journey is when they can't find any information on pricing. That's the biggest key. This is going a step further, though, Joe, and I talk about this a lot more. So obviously, the first book I wrote was They Ask You Answer. I came out with Endless Customers about 8 weeks ago, and that is the third edition of They Ask You Answer, but we just changed the name, and it's very present minded in the world of AI and whatnot. And one of the things it talks about is this phenomenal shift that we're seeing towards the self-service buyer. We've got some stats on this. We know that today 75% of all buyers say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience. And so what does this mean? It doesn't mean that we hate salespeople. It just means we don't want to talk to a salesperson until we're good and ready, until we're confident, we're comfortable, and we feel like we're not going to make a mistake. And so I believe so much in leaning into what buyers want. I said, our pool company, we're going to be the first manufacturer to put a pricing estimator on our website. And everybody said, you can't do that as a manufacturer because you got dealers and they set the end price. I said, you're getting so caught up in the word price, whereas what people really want is an estimate, a range. And if you give them that, then it's magical. And so we put one on the Riverpool's site. We were the first one to do that. And it has produced, if I gave you the exact numbers, it would make your eyes pop out of your head. And I've seen this work so well that I started a software company last year called Price Guide, and you can find it at priceguide.ai. So what Price Guide is, it allows contractors like landscapers, electricians, pool companies, whatever, to quickly, easily, cost effectively build a pricing estimator for the product or service that they sell and put it on their website. I kid you not, it's really funny that we're talking today, Joe. because I had a case study from Price Guide with a pool slash landscaping company that came in today. And this is a wild case study. It's a company called AE Pools and Landscape. And let me give you this is a real stat. You can find it on Price Guide. We're posting it today. So last year, they got 400 leads for the entire year. This year, they added Price Guide. In other words, an estimator on their homepage in February. They've gotten 1,200 leads so far from the estimator. Think about that. 1,200 leads so far. They've got, from the estimator, they've closed 300 in closed sales, and they have 5 million in the pipeline. He says in the video, he did 3 million in sales last year, and they expect to be roughly 10 million this year, thanks to a stinking estimator that cost them for the entire year about $200. Isn't that freaking extraordinary?
That goes back to what we've been seeing a lot of, though, is how tools like AI and virtual estimator software, they're really changing that buying journey for the consumer, and they're adding a whole new level of interactivity to people's websites. So it's really forward thinking in terms of what can you bring to the industry from your perspective of what moves the needle as far as when the pool buyer hits your website, what do they expect to see? Can you answer questions in real time? Hey, how much does a pool cost? I think that's really indicative of why maybe that guy saw a 300% jump in growth. Great case study, Marcus.
Look at it like this. Okay. The second a homeowner says, I want to get a pool, they lead with a question. That question is the gateway of the buyer's journey. And do you know what that gateway is? What that question is? Roughly, how much is this going to cost? That's the gateway. And so unless they open that gate, and that's your job, what will happen is many of them will not continue on the journey, or at least they won't continue on that journey with you. So you're literally rejecting people at the gateway to your company when you say, I will give you nothing, call for quote. Because frankly, call for quote has now become the middle finger of the internet. That's what it's become. I have so much data on this, Joe, because of the amount of home contractors, home improvement companies that are using Price Guide. It's utterly extraordinary. The other side to this is what's happening with websites is, and this is just a reality because of AI answers, because of ChatGPT, because everybody's shifting over to ChatGPT, all the top of funnel questions, they're now pretty much getting that from AI. Right. So if somebody's like trying to say, which by the way, as I say this, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be addressing these things online through text and video. It just means that you're not going to get as much traffic as you did before, but you still need to address it to send out the trust signals to consumers and to AI search engines, to regular search engines. Like you still need to do that. You still need to do the things that's hot and they ask you answer, and now endless customers, but you do have to evolve. And if you address these things that we're talking about here, it's a totally different game. In the past, whereas your website would handle all the way through the funnel, now they're coming to your website oftentimes after they've gotten, let's say, recommendations even from AI. So then the more bottom of the funnel. So what this means is you're going to get less traffic to your site, and your site is now becoming critical for the conversion point. Now, the issue is the conversion point of the past, and you know this well as a marketer, Joe, was like buying guides and stuff like that's what we did for the better part of a decade. Right. But people aren't really downloading buying guides anymore. They don't feel like that's a fair trade. Somebody doesn't want to give you their email address for your buying guide because they could probably build their own buying guide in about 10 seconds on chat. It's like, okay, but what they will give you an email address for and how you can build your database is by an estimator. And that's what you have to understand. So your website is becoming more of a bottom of the funnel conversion tool, where AI is now becoming that more top middle of the funnel. And this is this is the trend line we're headed. And let me give you just one more glimpse of the future for everybody's listening to this. And a lot of folks will hear this and say, I don't think that's going to be the case. Okay.
To your crystal ball, you tell me what you say.
Yeah. Because I don't want to be cocky, but I have not missed many predictions, especially when it comes to pools. I've not missed very much at all. And I can tell you what's going to happen within a short period of time. It's already happening right now. So each one of us listening to this right now, every homeowner is going to have what might be considered an AI assistant to do their research for them online. And so they'll say to that AI assistant, just like you say to Alexa in the morning, play me a song from such and such. Now they're going to talk to their AI and they're going to say, listen, we decided that we want to get a swimming pool. Here's roughly what we're looking for. We want you to go online. We want you to research all the local companies. We want you to decide who, based on the information they have, based on the reviews they get, etc., who is the most qualified to work with us? Who's the best fit to work with us? We want you to come back and bring us a list, but we also want price estimates. So bring us your top 3 that you would recommend. Bring us a price estimate based on the parameters that we've given you. And also let us know which one of the 3 you would choose and why. That's coming, Joe.
I think we're already there, Mark.
Yeah, we're already there. The issue is most homeowners don't understand how to use agents yet. And it's not quite like readily available to tech for anybody. But that's coming. Just like Alexa at first seemed crazy, and now it's like, I talk to this thing, and it hears me all the time. It's always listening, and I'm totally fine with it. So it's the same thing that's happening here. Now, here's the issue, though. Guess what happens if you're one of the companies that doesn't have an estimator on your website? You don't get the recommendation. And so this is why it's going to become table stakes. I'm going to make a bet with you. Within 5 years, 90% of all swimming pool companies will have a pricing estimator on their website. Swimming pools, and by the way, this extends to landscapers, etc. Okay? Will have a pricing estimator on their website. 90%. Mark my words, you heard it here first. Some of you are going to say, that's not true. I'm not going to play. And that's fine. You're going to be reactive, and the rest of the industry is going to pass you by. And I'm only telling you this because it doesn't really help me. It actually hurts me because it means I might get less leads by telling you this as a pool contractor. But this is where it's headed, and I don't want to lie to you. I want you to know. I want you to be prepared.
I think that's a great insight. I'm going to tell you, for me, I've been an early adopter of AI. We watched that one TED Talk where Simon Sinek talks about the early adopters, the mid adopters, the guys who are late on the curve. I think that there's going to be a lot of pool companies out there that are probably going to get their lunch eaten that are not focused on AI or what that can mean to the bottom line. But let me ask you a question. We'll shift gears for a second, get off of AI. I mean, when you're consulting with contractors today, pool companies included, I mean, what's the other biggest mistake from a marketing standpoint that you still see guys making out there?
Video, lack of. It's not close. I think there's a very strong argument, especially for pool contractors, that your YouTube page is going to be more important than your website in 5 years. Yeah.
I remember that one talk that you gave at the Premier Summit where you were telling guys how integral video is as part of the process and how they shouldn't be afraid to show their face on camera, be able to talk to the customer, introduce themselves on the customer. I think you were recommending BombBomb at the time, right?
Yeah, one-to-one video in the sales process should be a standard in this industry. I mean, I think it's crazy. Listen, if you're a contractor, pool builder, and let me give you an example of this. If the first time the homeowner sees the salesperson's face is when they walk up the driveway, you have failed that homeowner. Shame on you. Because the homeowner should already know what the salesperson looks like, should know what they sound like, should recognize them when they're walking up the driveway, because they've already received a video or multiple videos from said salesperson. See? And I can send out a video introducing myself, or my team can, automatically gives us a leg up, right? Because we're much more human, much more personal. But when it comes to video, there's still, huge opportunity there. There's still way more opportunity from a search perspective to show up well in YouTube search results than Google search results. Much easier. And there's a ton of opportunity with short form video as well. Just in terms of building out like signals and repurposing the video to go on social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Reels and TikTok and what have you. It's just, and you can do so much. You got to start seeing yourself as a media company. We're one of the most visual products in the world. And if you are not taking video of every job and doing before and afters of every job and just really showing that, man, what the heck, dude? Let's go. Let's go. Start thinking like your buyer. That's what they want. Everybody wants more video. 82% of all the content we consume online this year is going to be video based.
No, I've heard you say it before. You're not just a construction company, you're also a sales and marketing company. I think a lot of the companies out there like the idea of content marketing, but execution is where things stall out. If you're a smaller pool builder, where do you start with all that?
Now you start with the thing that's in your pocket that you probably spend too much time on with unproductive activity. Start using it for productive activity. And that, of course, is just start shooting video. No, it's like, here's all you have to do. Walk up on a job site, look at everything on the site and say, how many questions would a homeowner have if they walked up to this site right now and looked at this project? Hundreds. And then create a video on each one of those. For example, why'd they choose this fence? Why'd they choose this patio? Why'd they choose this design? Why'd they choose this color surface? Why'd they choose perimeter tile? Why did they choose this particular coping? Why'd they put their filter system there? Why'd they design their deck in that way or that shape? And how'd they integrate the landscaping in like that? And, why'd they go salt here over regular chlorine or whatever? Ever. Doesn't matter, dude. But these are the things that you could be doing. And that's where the inspiration is found. But you got to learn to start thinking like a homeowner. Stop thinking just like an informed pool guy because that will get you in trouble.
You've also talked in the past about answering the questions that people are genuinely intrigued by and not just the stuff that's safe. I've seen you talk about the competition. One of the
Sure.
bolts that you did early on was write a comparison content, fiberglass versus vinyl versus you versus other local installers. That's risky for some. Why lean into it?
That's because the mindset is if they're asking, we need to answer. And man, I got asked in the home all the time. So, is there any other pool builders you'd recommend? We like you, Marcus. If you had to choose somebody, who would you choose? Okay, so am I going to ignore it? Because they're not ignoring it. The homeowner's not ignoring it. They're going online and they're searching this stuff. I want to own every conversation. Now, the key is just don't say negatives, right? Don't say negatives about other companies. Be honest, make it undisputable, present facts. And if you do that, it's kosher, it's clean, and you're going to see, and AI is going to see, and the homeowner's going to see that you're different, that you're more honest and transparent. You got nothing to fear, nothing to lose. I mean, you can go to the River Pool site today. We got a tool on there. This thing is bad. We got a tool that asks you a series of questions, and it gives you a recommendation of what type of in-ground pool you should get. So every single day we have people fill out that form, take that tool. It's like a pool. What's the right pool for me quiz? They take the quiz and they get recommended concrete or they get recommended vinyl. And all we sell is fiberglass. Why in the world would we do that, Joe? Because that's what buyers want.
That's the miracle on 34th Street approach to customer service. Macy's didn't have what the customer wanted, so they sent them across the street to Gimbals rather than convince them to buy a product that isn't right for them.
And I generate way more leads because of it. I just don't think people are dumb.
Yeah.
I think they're going to figure this stuff out. I just want them to figure it out through me, through my companies. That's what I want, man.
Marcus, if you had to distill the refreshed, they ask you answer endless customers update into one takeaway for pool builders listening to this episode, what would it be?
The most important thing you can do for long term success is build a known and trusted brand in your market. If you're not known and if you're not trusted, you will fail. Eventually, you will lose your business. That's it. That's the key. And real quick, just to add on, but to be known and trusted, you can't do what everybody else is doing and expect to get extraordinary results.
Let me ask you a question. I know you've sold your interest in River Pools, that you have the one franchise office today that you're a partner in. Where is River Pools today? You guys have expanded into manufacturing, licensing, become a national brand. What lessons from that growth phase stand out to you the most right now?
One of the things that always stood out to me is that I think if you're a dealer for anybody, can't wait around for the mothership to carry the day. The best thing I ever did back in the day, we were carrying different types of in-ground pools. They asked you answer when we started, we were carrying Leisure and Barrier Reef at the time, at different times. And I wasn't going to sit there and wait on them to do the things that I felt needed to be done to get known and found and trusted. And so if you're listening to this, stop waiting for somebody else to build your brand. You got to build your brand. No, by the way, you're not going to do it by outsourcing your way to extraordinary success. You got to have a dog in the fight. You got to have the phone in your hand. You got to be the one to hit record often. And I know you didn't sign up for that to a degree. You didn't say, hey, but I just wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was just good at pools. I love pools. I didn't think I was going to have to do all this digital stuff. Guess what? You ask people for money. You have to do whatever it takes to earn their trust. You say, when you became an entrepreneur, you lost the right to complain about how the world changes. You lost the right because everything that your buyer wants, those are the same things you want. So meet the buyer where they are. You want to watch a video when you're researching, meet the buyer where they are. Doesn't matter if you have a face for video or not, in your opinion, because they're eventually going to see you. They're going to have to look at you. You're going to ask them for money. And when they do, you sure as heck better hope they trust you a whole bunch.
You got to build it along the way. Yeah, great philosophies there. Let me ask you a question, though. How has your philosophy evolved or expanding since writing the book? There's so much that changes every single day. We talked about how AI is pretty much resetting the whole paradigm of what we do.
It is, man. I couldn't do what I did in 2009 and become the massive success we became today. Couldn't do it. Why? Because what I did in 2009 was I did a crap ton of really text-based content on the website. And I did a decent job with video on the website and on YouTube. That would not be enough today. I would need to do more today. I didn't do any social media at all, man. I'd have to lean into social a lot more. I'd have to think a lot more like a media company today. See, the advantage of being a pool guy was that oftentimes everybody's so busy working in a hole that they're not working on their business. So I took advantage of that, right? And I was like, I'm going to work on the business. I'm going to build something really cool here while everybody else, busy digging a hole. And it wasn't easy. And I stayed up till 1, 2 in the morning almost every single night for 2 straight years doing this stuff. So when people tell me they don't have time, I'm like, yeah, you just don't have enough pain yet. Get some pain. You'll find the time all of a sudden. Well, that's how it works being human. And so I've changed my philosophy that you can't just answer your customer questions on your website and think that will be enough. It's not going to be enough. You're going to have to do more than that. And you're going to have to be great with video. And you're going to have to be on social if you want to scale to really big numbers. If you want to do 10 pulls a year, and if you want to be the installer and the salesperson, and that's all you want, and I'm fine with that. I don't fault you for that. But you don't need to do that stuff. Just do a good job, get referrals, and call it a day. Right? The problem is, for some people, you got nothing at the end of that rainbow. There's no pot of gold. All right. You got no retirement at the end of that. So building river pools the way we did, it allowed me to become or experience financial peace, and then allowed me to create generational wealth, invest in other companies, start many other things, live an extraordinary life, all because we just didn't want to be a 10 pool a year pool company. And that's not for everybody. But that's me, man. And I love watching something grow. And we grew it big. And it was a really beautiful chapter of my life.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Pool Magazine Podcast. Marcus, a huge thank you to you for sharing your insights and experience with us. Always a pleasure to talk with somebody who not only talks the talk, but walks the walk. You know this industry inside and out. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks.
If you haven't picked up They Ask, You Answer, do yourself a favor. It's essential reading for any pool builder looking to grow their business in today's digital landscape. I'm Joe Trusty. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time with more stories and strategies from the leaders that are shaping the pool industry.
You know you could be financing more pool construction projects if your customers had easier access to funds. The potential to increase your number of pool sales would go up dramatically if you could find a way to make that happen. Viking Capital has been helping pool builders connect their customers with the funds they need to build their dream backyard for over 20 years. A reliable and trusted financing partner in the pool industry, we're working with some of the leading builders in the nation to provide their customers with more approvals, lower interest rates, and larger loan amounts. Great communication is also what sets us apart. Our loan status software gives builders real-time reporting on their finance projects. Providing transparency and taking the mystery out of that process is a big part of why we're the partner of choice for pool builders from coast to coast. Want a better financing solution? Schedule a consultation with a Viking Capital representative today.